Welcome to My Two Cents. Grab your cup of coffee, or if you like tea, I guess that's okay. I honestly only drink tea if I'm sick, but I do know there's a lot of tea drinkers out there. You are welcome to come. If you're a coffee drinker, I might like you a little bit more, but either way, everyone's welcome to join me in My Two Cents conversation. Sit back. Today we're gonna have a little bit of fun. So, how many of you right now are living in what I like to call the sandwich generation? For those of you that never heard that terminology, that means you're not living in it yet. So the sandwich generation is when you have a young adult that you're still responsible for somewhat, and you might have elderly parents, one parent, more than one parent. So my situation is we have a son who he's halfway through law school. So during law school, it's really difficult to sustain your own type of job. So, we still take care of our son living in New York. And when you have a son that's, I call it grown and flown, they're out of your house, but you still have responsibilities where they're concerned. So I don't know where the dynamic is for you guys, but in our dynamic, we're a very close family. My husband and son, honestly, I truly think they're best friends. They literally are best friends. One day when our son gets married, I can foresee my husband being the best man. Who knows later on down the road? That's not for now. But anyway, they are literally best friends. They sometimes stand the same way. They love sports, especially football. Sports, I really like also football a lot. That's, our bond as a family. However, their level of knowledge is like a whole nother ball game. Later down the road, I'll have my husband come on and we'll do a whole, when football season comes around again, our favorite season, we'll do a whole My Two Cents on all of the football shenanigans. Anyway, so our son will pretty much every day call one of us. Normally, if it's something with sports going on, he talks to my husband. So their relationship is great. Sometimes they'll talk for an hour, but it's like what I like to call it. It's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of sports talk, maybe some weather every once in a while, maybe some of his classes if he thinks they're interesting to my husband. Now, when our son calls me, it could be one of two things. It could just be perfectly normal conversation about what's going on, what's he enjoying, things like that. Or he needs something, or he's worried about something. So when I get the call from my son, it could be high alert, or it could be totally just fine. I never know, because he only calls me for high alert. He doesn't call my husband for high alert. One time, in fact, we were with a whole bunch of our team in another state, and they said, "Oh my goodness, Leslie, your phone's ringing. It's your son. Do you need to go get it?" And I said, "Oh, he's calling Ryan, not me, so no worries, no alert there." Because if he's calling my husband, there is no alert. So anyway, our son is very self-sufficient, obviously super proud of him. When he comes home, he's not as self-sufficient as he is when he's not in our house. But some of that might be because I love to spoil him rotten when he comes home. We only have one son, he's an only, and I wouldn't say worship the ground he walks on, but I'm a typical mom. I definitely, when he comes home, he gets treated a little more like a king, and definitely my husband complains about that. Okay, and then on the other spectrum, my dad passed away 3 years ago. I was super close with my dad and my mother. I was very lucky. I think I alluded to this on my first episode. When I was growing up, my parents were the kind of parents people like dream to have. People would be like, "Can I just borrow your parents?" I'm like, "Sure, take my parents." And I remember my brother and I used to laugh because we're like, one time we said to our parents, "Can you get divorced? Because we don't have anything to talk about with our friends," because so many of our friends' parents were getting divorced. So that's a little aside. But anyway, my dad was very independent. He handled all the bills. He actually knew how to text. So having a dad that could text is very convenient. So cheers to my in-laws because they can text. My mother-in-law is very tech savvy, thank goodness. However, my mother, she doesn't know how to text. She doesn't use a cell phone. And I don't know about you guys, but every role that my dad passed away in 2022. So now I just deal with my mom by myself, not with my dad. So which I'm a lot more like my dad than I am my mom. One of the ways, it could be a whole episode another time. One of the ways is I definitely I give people chances, but after a certain amount of chances, then I'm done. Where my mother is very like she's never done. She will give somebody a bazillion chances, and she wants everyone to get along always. So anyway, my mom through the years, as my mom's gotten older in the past few years without my dad, about a year and a half ago, her decision, she says it was mine, but her decision was to sell her 3-story house that she was in danger of falling in all the time. And I used to worry so, so much. So she finally decided she was going to move to independent living. And even though I live in Florida and there is a billion independent living places in Florida that are some were too fancy for her, some were just right. She decided she still wanted to stay in Maryland where her friends are and where she's used to. And I was just so happy that she just finally was going to get out of this big house that she was living in by herself and everything that went with that. So she moved into independent living a year and a half ago. And sometimes she'll say it's not for her. But when I tell you her social life is busier than mine, she plays mahjong almost every day now. She goes to movies, she goes out to lunch. Like she is just like the queen of activities to exhaustion. But some of the rules she used to have for me not even when I was little, I'm talking about a young married adult. So case in point, one of her rules was if I left her house and drove home, no matter if it was a 15-minute drive home or an hour drive home, when I got home, I needed to call her. So, and I always did. Now, if I was even like maybe 30 minutes late or I forgot, she probably would have sent like the helicopters, the FBI, the police, who knows what. Well, that rule doesn't work for her now. Last night, in fact, so I call my mother literally every single night at 8 o'clock, whether I want to or not, whether it stresses me out or not. Every single night at 8 o'clock, my mom gets a phone call from me, literally on the nose. And so sometimes when she's not going to be home, she might tell me ahead of time. Well, last night I call her at 8 o'clock. I call her at 8:30. I continue calling her until about 9:30. And then my husband says, were you going to call the front desk? I said, no, because every time I've done that, my mom was somewhere else or she fell asleep. And then I alerted the front desk, and I don't want to keep doing that because I don't want to bother them. So around 9:45, my mom calls me. And she goes, I didn't want you to worry, so I wanted to call you. I hope it's not too late. I'm like, well, when I called you at 8, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, I was starting to get a little concerned. Where were you? Oh, I decided to play mahjong last minute. And I said, okay, and when did you find out you were going to do that? She said, well, I made the plan this morning. I said, awesome. I'm so glad you had a good time. Did you think maybe to call me like ahead of time just to give me a heads up so I wouldn't worry? And then she's always like, oh, don't worry about me. So I don't know what your situation is, but if you're dealing with young adults and also the older adults, I will tell you, I don't know for daughters because I only have a son, but even on my son's worst days, he's so much easier to deal with than my mom because through the years, my mom has become very, very stubborn. She can't always hear very well, and she just... it changes. You know, I'm doing this comically, but not everything about it obviously is funny, but it changes over time. So in some of the ways it changes, it's not for the best, but you become like their caregiver versus being their daughter. So I was used to having a mom that actually asked me about my life every once in a while. Actually, if I wasn't feeling good, she would. When I was first married, unfortunately, I used to have panic attacks that I would go to the emergency room, and then I've had some surgeries through the years. And it's not just because my mom is a retired nurse. For the first few years of marriage, like I still turned to my mom. Like if I was hospitalized, I wanted my mom there. When I gave birth to our son, yes, Ryan could be there, it was fine, but I needed my mom. If Ryan had to leave the room, fine, go ahead, Ryan, leave the room. But mom, no. So to have this mom now where I don't even think can't even remember the last time she asked me anything about me. I will tell you this, of course, being a typical grandmother though, she will ask me every single day about her grandson. She will ask everything she'll even know about like some of his friends in his life. But as far as what I'm doing and anything in my life, nothing. She knows nothing about it. Anyway, it's just, you got to laugh because what else can you do? You love your parents and listen, I get that not everybody has a parent they love. That's a whole nother show. But luckily for me, I have always been blessed in the parent equation. And then I was doubly blessed when I started dating my husband. We were 19. I think I fell in love with his parents before I actually fell in love with him. So unlike a lot of people, I'm never going to do a my 2 cents on mother-in-laws because you guys would hate it. Because I have my mother-in-law is like one of my best friends. It's very different than I hear a lot of you have with yours. My father-in-law is beyond amazing. But I only say mother-in-law because most people have mother-in-law issues. But anyway, I just wanted to share. So I am very lucky with the parents that I had, and now also having my in-laws. I will say thank goodness for my in-laws because they help out a lot with my mom at times since I don't live in town. But anyway, you guys, I just wanted to share a little bit of my 2 cents. My 2 cents about the sandwich generation, it's not easy. Is it worth it? I guess so. But is it easy? No. And after losing 76 pounds 11 and a half years ago, I don't even eat sandwiches. I don't even like them anymore. And I'm stuck in a sandwich generation. I don't think it's the greatest thing in the world. But anyway, if you ever need any help navigating that, give me a shout out and hope you have a good rest of your day.